Dr. Brown and Dr. Douglas, thank you so much for coming, and it is my pleasure to be part of this team that is presenting today on how we're going to try and increase workplace productivity through literacies. Miranda and the team of workplace coordinators, thank you for putting this together. My JFLL team and all my visiting colleagues and friends, thank you for having us all here and for being part of this. All right, we know our vision, we know our mission statement. We want an educated, knowledge-based adult population empowered through lifelong learning. We work not alone, we work in partnership. We work with the Sandals team, we work with agriculture, we work with colleagues here. We don't do this alone with the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Labour and Social Security. We drill right down, as Wayne said. We do not do this alone. We certainly endorse and embrace Vision 2030, our national goals. We believe that Jamaicans can be empowered to achieve their fullest potential, but this can only be done with improved literacies. We believe that we can achieve a Jamaican society which is safe, cohesive, and just, but this can only be achieved with improved literacies. We believe that our economy can be prosperous, as Dr. Douglas said. Increased productivity will only come through improved literacies. And we can protect and have a healthy natural environment if we can make our Jamaican people stewards through improved literacies of their environment. But let us talk about some literacy facts, and let me not let this microphone kill me off. Okay, let's look at workplace literacy facts. Technological developments are occurring faster than we dream, dramatically altering the way that we work. So we know that with technology, we need more improved skills in the workplace and all around us. We're moving into, or we're already embracing a knowledge economy. We've left the industrial economy behind. And our natural resource, as has been endorsed by my colleagues, is our people. But our potential is untapped and vast. Literacy and skills can unlock this potential. And with that unlocking of potential comes higher productivity. But how are we in Jamaica positioned to achieve this challenge? We must become a world leader in literacy and skill development. Literacy is the most important lever that we can channel to achieve improved productivity. But where are we with literacy in Jamaica today? Our media, when I talk about illiteracy, I walked into one of my classrooms recently and said, what does illiteracy mean to you? I said, boy, doc, it means the people them dunce. And people don't like to talk about illiteracy and literacy because we then put it in a little box and say, well, if illiteracy means dunce, literacy must be trying to take the people who are dunce and work with them. That's not what we're talking about when we talk about literacy. Literacy is a very complex subject, and low literacy is prevalent in all walks of life in Jamaica. And I think a lot of it goes back to the theoretical perspective. Let's look at what school-based literacy means. School-based literacy is our concept that the skills and competence that we learn in the classroom, that we can just pick them up. So if I learn to read this little storybook about a Nancy, I can pick up those skills and go out and come onto a property, maybe in a hotel industry, and apply that skill to write a report or to read a training manual. It no goes so. It's a different skill that is required, not a school-based literacy, but work-based, information, ICT literacy, and I'm going to come to that. So if we're thinking that school-based literacy is what we need in the workplace and in our personal life, then we need to have a paradigm shift of how we think of literacy. It's more than just being able to read and write. It's ability to comprehend, interpret, analyze, respond, interact in a variety of complex situations in which youth and adults enter in every day of their life. School, different from work. Different from military, Dr. Brown, different from civic, different from family. Each kind of literacy requires a different skill. But let's look at our current environment and see what this is made of. Did you know, and this is quoting from Minister Holness in his back to school message this September, in many of our schools, less than 50% of the grade 11 population sit CSEC. So in a grade 11, less than 50% sit CSEC. And of that less than 50% that sit the CSEC, their results for math and English is below 40%. That's no good, you know. Grade 9 achievement test, because many of our schools only go up to grade 9, as we know. The exam national average for language is 52%, and for math is 43%. And for the 2008-2009 grade 6 achievement test, that's our GSAT, the national average for language is 57%, and for math is 53%. I took that from the Ministry of Education statistics from 2009-10. But what does that mean to us? Let me tell you what does that mean. That means that for a student, and most students have a smartphone, it means that with these results, they can't read the manual to show them how to operate the smartphone. Most students have a skill, but they can't read the instructional manual to tell them how to use a new piece of technology. Or as Dr. Douglas and Dr. Brown were saying, they're moving one thing to another thing, and they have to come and say, Doc, can you help me fill this out? Can't send out this letter because I have to wait for my boss to come in to read it or to proof it. So what this means is that we have people out there who are having challenges listening, communicating, writing, and interpreting written documents that they read. Well, the 21st century is only knowledge-based. Workers must have the ability to adapt, learn, and master new skills quickly and efficiently. It must be automated. And literacy is a set of skills that reflect the needs of the time. And so we need to change our definition of literacy. We need to incorporate not only the 3 R's, but also the 4 C's. Critical thinking and problem solving, communication, collaboration, creativity, and innovation. That's the ticket if we are to change the economic situation in Jamaica. But what about the changes in our demands? Workplace demands are changing. You have to adapt to the sign of the times. Let's look at the changes in the workplace just in my generation alone. My grandfather was an accountant. He did the books. If you're an accountant today and the book you're working with, you have to be able to use complex computer programs. So it's not about reading and fiddling around on pen and paper. Research, when I did my first degree up at UWI, the internet was not invented. Okay, that means I'm an old woman, right? Not so old. The internet is a fairly new phenomenon. Now, children in the primary school have access to internet to do research. No more do you have to actually go up to the library and burn the midnight oil. Doctors, when I was a child, I would go and the doctor would tell me, well, this is what's wrong with you. No more. Now, when I go to the doctor, they have to engage me in the discussion because I've already Googled my disability, my challenge, my illness. And banking, I hear Dr. Brown talking about banking. I could not tell you the last time I went into a bank. Many years ago, I used to go into the bank to interface. Now, everything is automated. Literacy is very different with the demands of technology. Now, where we're coming from, and when you look at this, you might think, but Anna, Jamaica, that? This is what literacy and the education model used to be, where you had your core subjects and you had assessment. For the 21st century, the classroom is a very different dynamic. The framework for 21st century learning describes the skills, knowledge, and expertise that students must master, not to succeed in the classroom, because we're no business with that anymore. It's to succeed in life, to succeed in the job, to succeed at home, in your community, to be able to go and vote, be part of the democratic process. And so what do you need? Yes, you need assessment. We heard about Rhonda Sutherland talking about the importance of assessment, but you need life skills. You need core subjects, you need learning and thinking skills, and you need computer literacy. Without that, we will not be producing learners who are ready for the world of work. And so what kind of literacy do we need in the 21st century? Learning and innovation skills, I've talked about that. We heard Dr. Brown talk about information, and I'm going to add media and technology skills. We must have information literacy, media literacy, and let me tell you what I mean. Life and career skills. We must be flexible and adaptable so that if I'm number 8 and I have the key, let's change that. Let's flex it and give number 1 the key. So that number 1, and when number 1 have the key, they're not coming at 8, they're coming at 7:30 to open up that business. Because they realize that there might be somebody who wants to come in at 7:30 in the morning and start business then. Innovative, initiative and self-direction, social and cross-cultural skills, because we live in a global economy. I know what's going on in Jamaica alone. It's what's going on in Miami, in UK, in Canada, in Australia. Leadership responsibility, productivity, and accountability. But let me tell you what I'm talking about ICT literacy. If I am going to learn about social studies today, I must be able to use technology to find out about the Thanos. If I am going to be learning about how to fix a car, I must be able to use the internet to research, organize, evaluate, and then communicate my information. I have to be able to use my phone. I have to be able to use social and networking media. So how can I use YouTube? How can I use Facebook, Twitter, and all of that? Can I use those to advance my research skills? Can I use a diary? Some people walk around with a paper diary still. In the 21st century, you must be able to sync your computer with your diary, with your smartphone, so that you know what's going. You will not get a job without your ability to do that in the 21st century. And what do we mean by information literacy? It means you can access information efficiently, effectively, evaluate it critically, and figure out how it's going to work. 5 years, and this is 2007, by the way, so this was 10 years ago. Change those numbers. 10 years ago, information had doubled. 2 years ago, whatever, so that would be 10. 8 years ago, information had doubled. This was outdated. Every minute that we're speaking, the amount of information out there has doubled. Those of you who are working on cars and are mechanics, the information that you're learning now is redundant for next year. Is redundant. So the only thing that is really important for you to learn to do right now is to learn where to get information about the car that they're making for 2020. That's what you have to do, not the car that is made in 2012, because the computer is going to be different in the car in 2015 and 2020. So that's what we're talking about. And what do we mean by media and critical literacy? Guess what? You see, every time CVM or the Observer or the Gleaner puts information out there, you have to understand the messages that they're telling you, because it's crafted in such a way that if you're not a thinker, you won't understand that they're actually telling you something by the way they put the information in the newspaper. What is the purpose that they're using these tools? How do you interpret the message, the value, and the points of view? Because I'm going to tell you something. If I come from Boys Town, my culture will show me one perspective of how to interpret that. If I come from Upper St. Andrew, I'm going to interpret the same exact thing in a different way. When I speak about literacy in one audience, they think I'm talking about reading and writing. When I talk about it among my JFLL colleagues or with my colleagues here, they know I'm talking about critical thinking, problem solving. But how many people, when I start talking about literacy, when the policymakers themselves are thinking, literacy, reading and writing, then we have to be a little bit apprehensive. In the 20th century, every student, that's the 20th century, no? Tell me if this looks like my Jamaican classrooms. Time on task. Just the ability to read and write. I am not talking about 21st century now, I'm talking about where we're coming from. This was what was important. You had to teach and learn and assess. Everything was standardized. I mean, take out this from this block and it's the same thing I'm going to your school, same thing I'm taking to Dr. Brown, same thing I'm going there. Transmission of knowledge. So I have it and I'm going to say, here, Dr. Brown, this is for you. You take it, and Dr. Brown memorized it and put it back on the CXC test. That is what I did. I did my first degree by memorizing and spitting it back out. Redundant. It's not, you can't do it like that anymore. Overemphasis on control. I am in charge. I'm the teacher. I know everything. Building learning from part to whole. So we do phonics today, and we do sight words tomorrow, and we do comprehension skills, not realizing that reading involves all of those things together. Lack of attention to diversity, recognizing that in this room here, I have people who are passionate about economics, people who are passionate about mechanics, people who are passionate about training, different people, photography, and so I must use that and build on it and say, here, take this and make it relevant to digital technology. And you must be able to take it and say, that's how I'll use it for me. Lack of attention to all of these things. Now, in my classroom in the 21st century, we must now say, you must be a critical thinker. So when I give you information, you must say, Doc. And so how does that apply to me? How does that apply to me if I'm fixing a car that is computerized, different from if I'm using it for a car that is not computerized? How does that apply to me personally as a problem solver? And when BMW comes out with a different engine, how can I use the same information that I know about to fix that engine? Can I use a part from the old one and drill it down and modify it to make it work on the new engine or not? And if I can't, then where can I get the information to do that? I must be an effective communicator, so that when somebody comes to me with a problem, I can say, what is it you actually mean? And I don't start answering the problem before I understand it completely. Because if I don't understand it, then I cannot cross it. Thank you. I must be a self-directed learner. I must be able to come in and say, me not understand. Where can I get the information? I'm not waiting for Dr. Brown to say, boy, Alison, you are not understanding this. Go and look this up. I must say, I don't understand. Let me go. Information, globally aware, civically engaged. It means that I'm not only interested about myself, I'm interested about my fellow classmates and my fellow colleagues. When I was at school, and when I was a teacher first time, 20 odd years ago, and I had a little boy, and he would hide up his book and say, no, don't copy. Don't copy my paper, man. Copy, don't copy from me. Now, we must share our information, because the information is not FIWI, it is ours. It's community information. It's what we take and make from it. So we move. This is in the 21st century. It must be constructivist. In that, not teacher-centered, but learner-centered. Shift away from what is important to me to what is important to we. Shift from learning skills only to connecting you with the wider world. So we must have global awareness, civic literacy, environmental literacy. They have something called that, critical literacy, financial, and even, Dr. Douglas, economic literacy. For those of us who don't understand the economics so good, I'm functioning at a low level of literacy. I was telling my mechanic friends that I operate at a low level of mechanical literacy. I do not understand it, and I cannot cross it. Purposes of literacy. The other day I had a flat tire. It took about 3 of my gentlemen here to change it for me. Great. So the purpose of literacy in the 21st century is reading the word, but more importantly, reading the world. The illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who can't read and write, but those who cannot, Dr. Brown, learn, unlearn, and relearn. So in the workplace, what does this mean? We must create lifelong learning environments. We must focus on continuous and comprehensive on-the-job and relevant learning. So when I'm in the hospitality industry, I don't really need to know about the mining industry's learning tools, and I don't need to pick up a textbook and see what's going on in somewhere else. I need to learn about it on the job here. Learning for all, collaborative learning, flexible environment. We must begin a new journey to embed a culture of learning. What will this look like in your workplace? This is just a little impact opportunity that I've put there for Jamaican Foundation for Lifelong Learning. Unattached youth, where we can focus. Literacy challenged adults, where we currently focus. And in the workplace. I won't spend too much time on that. But literacy in the 21st century. What does this mean for you and me? Thank you very much.